Hello. This is my second attempt at talking about Obama's attempt to use the EPA to control your lives. These are people who basically can run renegade and decide what the heck they want to do to control the entire economy. If they want to make it such that we can't be as competitive as we were against the Chinese, they can do that. They don't have to give any reason for it. They just say they're on a mission from God, and that's it. Well, most recently there was a vote in the Senate which defeated or derailed Obama in trying to ruin the country by not allowing the EPA to take over the controlling of regulating of CO2 emissions. The reason why I think this whole concept of CO2 emissions is insane is that CO2 is not a toxic gas. It's something that we all expel when we breathe. As I'm making this YouTube, depending on what you're doing, you produce more or less of it. When you're sleeping, you probably produce the least of it. When you're running a marathon or whatever, or bicycling in a race, you're probably producing the most of it. And everything else is in between, whether you're walking or jogging or hiking, canoeing. These are all activities which, according to the EPA, would say, hey, maybe you're using too much CO2. Maybe everybody should only be allowed to use so much CO2 a day, and so you use it how you want to use it. Maybe they can put little meters on our mouths so they can regulate it and send us a bill at the end of the year to see if we're within our allowed ranges. It's almost like how much water we're using to drink. I mean, some people, if they don't do a lot of physical activities, they don't have to consume that much water, although some health people are saying you should drink a lot of water regardless of how much you're actually sweating in and out. But in any event, getting back to this whole EPA issue, my Senator Casey, who I basically totally dislike, did in fact vote against Obama on that, and I give him credit. In fact, if he were to help repeal Obamacare and stop me from having to buy mandatory health insurance, I would vote for him. I would sell my soul to get our liberties back, and that's what we have to do. When Obama was trying to get elected, he was talking about how great clean coal was in West Virginia, and now they want to do this cap and trade, and which Casey seemed to be for, but I don't know if he will now. Cap and trade was to basically charge these power plants to get money from them, a tax on how much CO2 they consume. This would run through the banks. The Federal Reserve would love it. The world banks would love it. And this money would be, I guess, dispersed to something like a UN type of situation. But then again, China would be excluded from this. I mean, this is totally insane what's going on here, folks. Our government has been bought and sold. Obama was part of it. Obama was talking about clean coal. Clean coal, there are low sulfur coals, and Clinton took care of that. He closed down he made a park out of our biggest source of low sulfur coal in the United States. So we have to buy it from the Philippines or wherever he got his donation from. That was your buddy Clinton. And look, I'm not defending Bush either. They're all part of this. And once you understand that it's good cop, bad cop, you might understand what's going on here a little more. So what scientists propose is to take the exhaust gas and pump it down under high pressure into the ground, and hopefully a lot of CO2 will stick to the water or moisture or the rocks and absorb into it, and thus less CO2 would actually go into the atmosphere. But the problem with this is it takes another, 15% energy to do this. So we'll be using up 15% more oxygen out of the atmosphere, which means we need more trees to make up for the extra oxygen that's being consumed with no benefit in terms of power. The higher the CO2 levels, sports fans, the greater or faster plants grow, up to a certain point. Obviously, you put a plant in solid CO2, it's going to die just like we are. But plants grow, have higher growth rates. The hippies know that when they're growing pot in the greenhouses, they always inject more CO2 to get higher rates of production. So the Earth, if you look into it, is kind of self-regulating. The more CO2, the more green, the more oxygen, and the less CO2. But then again, there's also this whole thing that some trees produce more CO2 than they produce oxygen in the course of their life, because at nighttime, number one, they breathe out CO2. During the daytime, they breathe out oxygen, expire oxygen, or respirate oxygen. And when they die, all those branches, all those leaves, they rot. They produce CO2 or methane, depending on how they're decomposed. So this whole thing about trees seems pretty interesting to me. It would almost seem that in areas where you have snow, that it would make sense not to have evergreens, because evergreens absorb the heat in the wintertime and block the sun from reflecting back out into space when it hits the snow. In fact, the environmentalists are moaning and groaning about the fact that the reason why we're having so much snow is because we have global warming and there's more, I guess, moisture in the air to turn into snow. Well, the more snow on the ground, the more light reflects back into outer space. And it would seem to me that here we are, it's the Earth regulating itself again, but apparently we want to micromanage the Earth, even though we know there's solar cycles going on with the sun, and that we're seeing activities on other planets that reflect this. It's not just the Earth that has a slight gain right now at peak solar activity. I guess it was in the 70s, they're worried about another ice age coming. So, if you believe these people, you'll go crazy. You have to face facts that we are lucky to be alive on this planet. We cannot micromanage it. We can get taken out by an asteroid. I saw, when I was a kid, I saw a big meteor skimming the atmosphere. It was so big it looked like the size of a pea tumbling in the upper atmosphere. It was so high up that it turned from dull red to cherry red and back to dull red again in a couple of seconds as it passed. But had that hit the Earth, life as we know it would not be like it is today. So anyhow, I'm very happy that the EPA got defeated. Maybe the EPA can put little meters on our faces and decide how much air we can breathe each year, and then taxes if we use too much. Let's say you like cross country skiing, or you like, or even smoke. I mean, if you smoke, you produce a lot of CO2, right? Or why don't they put a CO2 emissions tax on all the smokers? That would be very interesting to know how much oxygen a package of cigarettes produces or eats up, and then produces how much CO2. When you have your charcoal grill, unless you cook by solar, I guess you're an evil person because you're producing CO2 someplace, whether at the power plant or in your rotisserie or gas grill. I think you really have to take a real look at how crazy this all is, and most of you people out there are just in zoom land. You keep on nodding your head. Yeah, we're helping the environment. We're doing it for Ronald McDonald, right? Well, if you want to tax something, that's one way to modify behavior. But in the case of cigarettes and booze, they don't want to tax it too much, because then they might reduce consumption and lose income, and that's what they're really concerned about. Anyhow, that's the end of this rant. It's a fairly benign rant. I want to thank all you people for putting a maniac in office as president. although he's somewhat been held in check this round. He's still working. He's still working to destroy us, and right in your face. And he's smooth, and hopefully we can vote him out, and hopefully we don't negotiate with the enemy. Take care.